helicopters, cars, EA, helicopters, Visceral, City. Yeah, let's kick it up. Shooting and shields and stuff, and bam, yeah, fuck it up. Cars, and he's got his stuff shooting people in a car. What the? Smash it. Cities. Like my, what, heli crash. Bam! Fucking blow up. Yeah. Cars smashing. Hardline. Welcome to the jungle. That's my overview of Battlefield Hardline right there. Today we're talking about community. Now, this was actually a topic that came up on my stream last night, and rather than give you some BS breakdown of the video, which you can just watch with your own eyes, and I could say to you like, oh look, there's a transport helicopter, and there's some cars driving around, and people have got guns, and they're shooting stuff, and they're driving, and things blow up, and blah blah blah. I thought I'd actually talk to you about something that's, you know, actually has some importance and relevance and actually will have an impact on how you play the game. One of those is community, and this came up on my stream last night while we were talking and discussing things whilst we were playing. And one of the things that we were talking about was the fact that, you know, obviously I stream fairly often with Battlefield 4, and we get such a completely varied experience. Some games we'll have like a night of streaming, and I will not be able to get into a good solid game. And you guys know this, you play the game, it'll just be a solid steamroll night and you can't win. And your choices are leave that server and try and hope you can find another server. Although chances are, when you're trying to find a server that you want to play, like if you want to play like Domination or Conquest, you know, you may be very limited in terms of the actual games you're going to be able to find that have the specific settings that you're looking for in terms of player count, game modes, and, you know, that kind of stuff. Because we all know that when people set up servers, they don't always choose like a kind of a wide variety, and there still seems to be a lack of good solid DICE servers that are occupied, so it can be a real problem. And so you end up in this kind of cycle of just making do and trying to join these servers and not having a good experience at all. And I, you know, find this regularly when we stream, is that, you know, the guys will be saying like, oh Luton, just quit this server, find a new one, you're not catching a break here. And it's like, well, you know, I don't like to just give up on a server immediately, because I feel very much that if you play with a server for a while, play like 5-6 games, usually players come and go, and then it should balance out overall. And I've always kind of played like that, and I've always found that that kind of is the way of things. On the other hand, this is a legitimate concern for Hardline, and I feel like this is one of these, people always say, what do you think about the game, what do you think about the game? Well, the game is one thing, but the people playing the game is a totally different thing. It's a very, very important issue. The fact that for a long time now, I think many people would agree that the quality of player in the game has significantly declined, and it has a massive impact on how you play the game. I know for a fact that many YouTubers, when they're looking for content to put out there, what they will do is play for hours and hours and hours, and then find maybe 2 or 3 games out of that entire period where they actually had like a reasonable game which will look acceptable when they post it to their YouTube channel. And the thing is, it gives like this distorted impression of the game, because it shows like every round you play is like, yeah, I'm kicking ass, it's all really awesome all the time, 24/7. And it's actually not. The majority of games that you play are horrible, because of the way that the people are playing. Now, I mean, this did actually bring up an issue I thought of a while back, which is, what's wrong with that? If your team is doing really well, what's the issue? You know, you're fighting hard, you're playing really good. That's entirely true, but the issue tends to be the fact that it's not like a battle. It's not like one team is sort of putting up a bit of a defense and it kind of crumbles and falls apart. It's usually just that they like smash you into the ground, like like you can't get up. I mean, the games that we were playing last night, I don't consider myself to be an astonishing player, but I don't consider myself to be a bad player, and I was having a hard time just getting up off of the ground. Like and the reason is like I've spoken so many times before, that momentum that gets going when you have a team which is like fairly stacked in terms of player quality. Like one team is just very good players and very hard pushing players, the others are kind of just wishy-washy all over the place. And what happens is that once those other guys get going, nothing can stop it, because they're sort of on top. Every time you spawn in, they're there. Every time you move, they're there. Every time you try and take an objective, they're there. And they're just like bam, 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 and you can't get anywhere. And let's be totally honest about it, that's just not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable at all. It's why I have several friends who are gamers, but they just don't play online, because they're just like, it's not fun. They're like, every time I try to play, I just get smashed into the ground. What's enjoyable about that? And they're absolutely right, it's just not fun. Now, People will obviously make probably derisory sort of comments saying like, well, just get good at the game, LTP, etc. But that's just not that's just a very dismissive and you know, not a legitimate answer really, because you're missing the point there that the game itself is not working to try and create an environment which will give you some kind of encouraged balanced gameplay. And so I feel this is a legitimate concern going to Battlefield Hardline, that, you know, this issue is going to continue, the gameplay isn't going to change. And people said like, how do you think the game is going to play? And I said, well, I mean, realistically, it's going to play the same as Battlefield 4 because the same people are going to be playing the game. The experience that you have in terms of how people are actually playing will be the same. Because the same people who won't move forward, the same people who stay at the spawn, the same people who will go like 5 snipers, the same people who will just run around trying to get C4 and trick shot BS and wasting the time and totally just not, you know, doing anything for your team whatsoever. It's probably going to be worse actually with Hardline because it's got that kind of atmosphere of like, let's do crazy shit, you know, and it's almost, I feel like that's going to be more and more encouraged. Now, you know, we walk down this line of, is there anything wrong with that? Should, you know, of course, and this is the thing, DICE have always said, like, well, you know, you should be able to play however you want to play. But it does turn off a large section of the player base, and also I find that every single person that I ask, whenever I ask on my streams, whenever I ask you guys here, the majority of the feedback I get is, we hate that crap, and it's super annoying. So I just feel like, yeah, I needed to sort of make this sort of comment and think about it because I feel like it's not been mentioned. I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it, to sort of actually understand what there is you can do about it. And the one part of me feels like, hey, maybe this is just where we are now. Maybe this is just how gameplay online is now, where the majority of people are just not interested in even anything that could be called even a basic understanding of the tactics of the game. And we're just talking about simple ABC stuff, you know, like where, you know, you got 3 bases, we're at 2, they're moving across to 1 and they're capping it, so move to the other, or intercept to defend, you know, that kind of stuff. It's just this inability to kind of move. I mean, several times as well when we're streaming, I'll actually bring up the map and I'll sit there for a couple of minutes going, look at the map. The map is a great way of looking at what your team is doing, and sometimes I'm astonished to see the fact that just 75% or more of your team just refuse to move. They're either too scared, or they're worried they're going to get killed, they don't want to hurt their precious KD or their score or whatever it is, but they just refuse to pretty much do anything. And I don't even understand why people would play like that. Like I've always said, KD, it's just meaningless, like, because it's so dictated by the way that you play. You know, you could have an astonishing KD, but that could mean you've been like an elite twitchy pro player right at the front, like getting all the kills, pushing all the objectives, or it could mean that you sat at a bottleneck doorway just cutting people down, you know. So again, these kind of numbers just are meaningless, but the fact that they have such impact on how people play the game really pisses me off. I mean, one thing that I think you could do, this is turning into a bit of a rant now, one thing that you could do that I think would help improve the game is kind of like Bad Company. Don't put those kind of numbers at the end of the round, just put like the overall kind of stats for the round, maybe between both teams or something, and then on the next page have your own stats. Just don't make it so prominent at the end of the round. Or, you know, like I've said for a long time, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it at the end of the round. Have your stats on your own page or something, but just don't have that at the end of the round. Just have like some kind of loading screen or whatever. I would totally be in favour of that personally, but I know that a lot of people wouldn't, because they're like, no, we love our stats, the stats, and they love all that, so it probably won't happen. But with that said, I mean, what else can you do? I mean, there's probably a few things you could do, some kind of matchmaking system going off of your skill play, but then again, stats are so easily manipulated, so how can you actually tell whether people have got genuine statistics? How can you then base that on, you know, if you're going to matchmake off of it, if you're going to do it off a skill base? I don't know. One thing the guys were saying last night was that what DICE should do is, you know, or what EA or Visceral, whoever going to do it, you should set, like, when you're searching on Battlelog, set a PTFO setting. Now, I hate that term because it's just played the fucking objective. I'd rather just play the objective. But either way, they could set like objective games or something like that, so that if you're an objective player, you select that and it selects only servers that have been highlighted for objective gameplay. Now again, I love that idea, I think that it could work, but there's obviously the potential that what's going to happen is, you know, you're going to have like objective players coming for those games, and then you're going to get some randoms come in who come in deliberately to kind of screw up their fun, and they try to make everyone's life a misery, because that's the world in online gaming, is that people enjoy making other people's lives a misery because it's so funny. So again, you cannot win, and that's my my issue. So I mean, I bring it over to you guys. What do you think? What do you think about this? What do you think about how the gameplay is going to turn out? Because everyone's got so caught up in all the details of the game and blah blah blah, even though we haven't had anything like official posted out there in terms of that content. Obviously everyone knows by now that plenty of people have been to see and experience this and all this kind of stuff. But with that said, as I say, there are other more important issues in the background which don't relate to just the name of items and just how things look, and you know, oh look, I've got an M16, or oh look, I've got an F2000, or you know, I've got a shotgun, or I've got a zip line, or whatever. All this stuff is kind of by the by in many respects, because this, I feel, is like a massive elephant in the room, and it's going to dictate people's experience. I mean, you cannot ignore it. This will be a factor in how the game plays out for you. So you can worry about the netcode, and you can worry about this, and you can worry about that, and the game modes, and it's all very interesting. But this will dictate, more than anything else, how your game plays out. Community. The community will dictate how your game experience is. And unless something is done to try and encourage more objective gameplay, or to try and, I don't know, put some system in place which enables players to play in the kind of servers and the kind of style they want to play in, it's going to continue in this fashion. And you know, you could argue, and you could totally say, I mean, I have played in these games for a long time now. You get used to it after a while, that this is just how it is. But I feel there is totally room for improvement. I don't feel that this is what we should just accept as the games that they are, that you just get steamrolled or are on a steamrolling team. Both of those experiences I find to be absolutely boring. I played several rounds like that last night, and it wasn't frustration. I was just like, I am bored out of my mind, because I either can't stand up or I can't die. I'm just like slapping people around, and it's just, both of those experiences for me are not enjoyable whatsoever. I want to fight. I want to feel like we're actually having some kind of objective input into the game. I want to feel like, you know, we're actually having a bit of push and pull, and that, you know, people are fighting against one another, not just one team's being screwed into the ground constantly. But what do you guys think? What's your experience? How do you feel this is going to affect it going to Hardline? Would you want to see any changes? Do you think it's not necessary? Do you think it shouldn't be even in the hands of the devs? They shouldn't encourage this kind of thing. It should be totally down to the community, and, you know, let the chips fall where they may. You guys tell me, because I feel kind of frustrated by this, but I'm interested as to how this could go down as well. Alright guys, thanks for watching. As always, if you want to support me, if you want to support the channel, drop this please a like. It always helps me out so much. Please also put a comment forward about what you think about this. More Battlefield stuff, more armor stuff coming up this week, probably a bit more Star Citizen as well. I'll see you next time guys. More Battlefield Hardline.